Today we'll be looking at where you are on the retirement scale and how much you need to retire. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is assuming that they're on track for retirement because they have some money saved, but the reality could be very different from what you think. Over our years in financial planning, we've developed a clear scale that shows exactly where people stand in their retirement journey, from seriously behind to way ahead. That's exactly why we're making this video today, to help you understand where you truly fall on the retirement readiness scale and what it means for your future. So let's get right into it. So in this week's video, we're talking about where you sit on the retirement scale and how much you need to retire. So put together an example of basically kind of two situations. I'm trying to take this from the abstract and bring it into just some real kind of clear examples of someone who's trying to retire early. That's what I specialize in, is working with people who are kind of younger than that traditional age 65 plus retirement age, because they face unique circumstances, around healthcare and other issues. And so the examples I'm going to use today are somebody who is 60 years old and wants to retire, and they want to know, where do they stack up and how ready they are to do that. So I'm really going to break it down into two situations. There are a couple of critical, variables, maybe the best way to put it, that are going to impact your retirement and how much you need to have saved, and how well you are financially. So the first variable that goes into this is whether or not you are married. If you're married, then you have a huge advantage as a retiree, even if your spouse doesn't have an earnings history, or hasn't worked outside the home or whatever, or maybe if that's you watching this video, right? Just being married gives you a huge advantage, and that is because a two-person household is entitled to two Social Security benefits, even if one of the spouses doesn't have an earnings history, hasn't worked much, or has a very small earnings benefit for Social Security. And so right there you have an advantage, because you're going to have two guaranteed income streams coming into the household as a retiree versus a single benefit if you are single or divorced. The other major variable that impacts your financial readiness for retirement is your housing situation. Do you own your home, or are you renting? And when I say own, I'm also talking about if you still have a mortgage, but it's a fixed rate mortgage. In retirement, all the studies show that probably the number one expense for retirees is their housing expense. So if you have a paid off mortgage, then already you're just leaps and bounds ahead of your peers as far as being ready, having a stable, financially secure retirement and being prepared financially. But even if you have a mortgage, but with a fixed rate mortgage, you have to think about it over time. You have this fixed payment over time, and maybe even, at some point in your retirement, you're scheduled, you're going to pay it off. But even if that's not the case, with a fixed rate mortgage, over time, your income is going to go up. Even if it's just from Social Security, it's going to go up with inflation. You'll get cost of living adjustments. While all the while, your housing expense is going to stay relatively flat. Now, I know obviously, my experience, property taxes and that sort of thing, they go up over time. But if you have a fixed rate mortgage, the component of your monthly expenses, that's the largest component, is going to stay fixed. It gives you a huge advantage over your peers, as far as just having a financially secure retirement. So, number one, how do you stack up financially? Number one, are you married? If so, you're ahead of the pack. Two, housing situation. Do you own your home, have it paid off, or have a fixed rate mortgage? And if you do, then you're way ahead of the pack as well. So now let's look at how much you would need to have saved in order to sustain certain levels of spending in retirement. And I'm going to break it down for somebody who is married and the husband and wife both have earning histories for Social Security, compared to someone who is single and only has a single, let's call it average Social Security benefit. And you'll see that the level of Social Security, and whether it's a one or two person household, has a huge impact on how much you have to have saved to spend at either $8,000 a month, $10,000 a month, or $15,000 a month. And for this example, I'm doing it for someone who is age 60. And that's an age that I see pretty common for an early retiree wanting to transition out of the workforce, doing it before they reach age 65 when they would qualify for Medicare. So let's jump in and look at those numbers, and you can see the impact that being married and owning a home can have on your potential readiness for retirement. Okay, so this first thing that I wanted to show you is looking at the annual spending for a household during retirement. And I'm showing this here. This information comes from JP Morgan, their guide to retirement. Great information, by the way. And we're looking at this for a household with between $250,000 and $750,000 of investable wealth, retirement savings, cash, and brokerage accounts, that sort of thing. I'm using this example the data is very similar for somebody who has a portfolio in kind of the $1 million to $3 million range. So, what the hey. You can see that during retirement, what this chart is showing is we're looking at age going from age 60 all the way up through age 95. We have different spending categories. And you can see kind of that over time, it's important to plan for inflation adjustments with your spending in retirement. But from my own experience, I've actually seen this bear out. Most people, their spending actually goes down over retirement. Now, there's those emergency or those kind of crazy situations where someone has a huge medical event, or they go into long-term care, very early, because of dementia or something, and then all of a sudden their expenses go up. But for your typical retiree, I just see spending not being not going up over time, but going down generally. But what I wanted to show you here is that the largest component of spending in retirement is really this. If you look at this gray box down here below, the housing expense, it's the largest component. So like I said, if you have your house paid off or you have a fixed rate mortgage and it's going to be paid off at some point in your retirement, you're just miles ahead. You're in great shape from a financial readiness, and how you stack up to your peers, you're in excellent shape. So now let's look at the impact of whether or not you're married and have two Social Security benefits, or you are single or divorced with just a single Social Security benefit. All right, so for this example, we're looking at, this is the husband and wife. They have Social Security benefits of they're 60 years old, and once they reach full retirement age 67, they're going to have $3,600 Social Security and a $3,200 Social Security. Now, those are on kind of the higher end of the Social Security benefit range, not the highest, but kind of a higher benefit. And you can see here that their spending capacity in retirement, we're talking $8,000 a month based off of a $1 million portfolio. So let's compare this with somebody who is single and how much they need to have saved. Now this person who is single with a average Social Security, more like $2,500 a month, to maintain that same level of spending, that about $8,000 a month, they need a significantly larger portfolio, almost $1.7 million to have that same $8,000 a month of spending in retirement. And you can see here, I want to show the cash flows because I think it's helpful to kind of see how this plays out over time. So with this person who is single, to maintain that $8,000 of spending, you can see that we have two. So on this graph here, we've got two colors. We have light blue and dark blue. The light blue, this represents taking money out of that $1.6 million portfolio. This dark blue represents Social Security benefits. Now you can see that as we go along the timeline from now, through retirement, that since they don't have Social Security kicking in for several years, obviously, there's just a huge demand on the portfolio that's happening, going from now through time. So if we compare this with the couple who is the married couple with an above average Social Security, you can see that just the demands on the portfolio are so much smaller. And this is what it really comes down to, is that, once, for the first, it's the same thing. For the first few years, it's all coming out of the portfolio. But then because we have two Social Security benefits, once those kick in, it's incredible. I mean, and in this scenario, what we're doing is one of the benefits of having a two-earner household is that in this case, the wife, she has a lower benefit. She's able to take it at her full retirement age, allowing the husband, he's going to delay until age 70 and take a maximized benefit. And what this is going to do, it's going to give him a huge financial advantage in the long run, with a lot of financial security, inflation-adjusted, tax-efficient income. And you can see that basically by the time that both of them have claimed Social Security, their need to draw on the portfolio basically goes away. I mean, at this point, they still have a portfolio that they could draw from, but what this is really showing is that as far as what they need to take from Social Security, or from their portfolio, it's totally gone away. At this point, it's a luxury. They still have it. They can draw from it, but they do not need to. All right, now we're looking at a single retiree who wants to have $10,000 a month at age 60. How much would they need to have saved? Well, you can see here just over $2 million saved in order to generate that $10,000 a month. Let's look at someone who is a married household, how much they would need. So pretty incredible. That person who's married, almost $600,000 less that they would need to have saved just because they have those two benefits coming into the household. Now let's look at and compare someone who wants to spend $15,000 a month as a single retiree versus married filing jointly. So as a single retiree, $3.3 million in order to generate sustainably over their lifetime inflation-adjusted income of $15,000 a month. But for that married couple, to generate that same $15,000 a month, they're going to need far less saved, only $2.7 million in order to generate that same $15,000 a month adjusted for inflation over time. Now, there's other variables that go into your financial readiness for retirement. I didn't even talk about things like whether or not you have a pension, or whether you have rental properties, or the impact of working part-time in retirement. That can be something you do. Obviously, it can help incredibly financially, but also just for quality of life. You may enjoy doing some work off and on, or at a more leisurely pace once you've retired, just enjoy life more. So I hope what this video has actually illustrated for you is that there are certain variables that have a huge outsized impact on your financial readiness for retirement. Namely, are you a two-earner household? And if you're not, even if you're just married, and then also your housing expense, that has a huge impact on your financial readiness. Now, before you go pay off your mortgage right away or do something like that, those are things that need to be done and thought through, taking a lot of things into consideration. So hopefully this has given you a good idea. You can see clearly where you sit on the scale of being very ready for retirement or not as ready for retirement. So there you have it, folks. Now that you know where you are in the retirement scale, you need to understand one thing. Your current position is just a snapshot of where you are today. You can't walk away from this video thinking that your place on the scale is fixed. There's so much more that goes into improving your retirement readiness. If you want to learn the proven strategies that can dramatically boost your retirement position, click the link in the description.